All right, so there may be a few more people joining us, but we will go ahead and get started. First of all, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are incredibly excited to be kicking off our Adulting 101 series, especially with this presentation on housing. Quick introduction, my name is Jeremiah Martin, and I work for Alumni Relations here at Loyola. I work specifically with the young alumni community, as this Adulting 101 series is sponsored by the Gold Board, or the graduates of the last decade. And while this is focused on a lot of information for young alumni, this is applicable to any and all alumni. So feel free to share the series with your friends, and we hope that you join us for the rest of the series. This evening, joining me this evening are two wonderful alumni speakers, Daria and Nicki. Daria is a 2017 grad of Quinlan School of Business and currently works at My Chicago Resource, where she serves as a buyer specialist, educating people in knowledge and tools for buying their first home. And Nicki is also a graduate of the Quinlan School of Business. She got her MBA from Quinlan and is currently the Director of Community Affairs at the Illinois Housing Development Authority. So we are absolutely thrilled to have both of them with us this evening, and they have a wonderful presentation that they have put together. But before I turn it over to them, I wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items. Following Daria and Nicki's presentation, we will be having a Q&A section of the presentation. So feel free to ask any questions using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Those will come directly to me, and then we will ask those as part of that section of the presentation. We will do our best to get to everyone's questions as we have time. Additionally, we will be recording this session, and it will be made available to all of you joining us this evening after the webinar. We'll send that out tomorrow afternoon. So to get started, I will go over our agenda really quick, and then I will turn it over to Daria and Nicki. So first of all, we'll be covering what is the IHDA, financial literacy, what resources are available to you when looking for a home and purchasing a home, when to rent versus when to buy, the steps you can take towards home ownership, and then the benefits to working with an agent. So without further ado, Nicki, I turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Jeremiah. And thanks, Daria. It's wonderful to be with both of you tonight. And it's wonderful to be with all our fellow Loyola alums tonight. First of all, I just want to say thank you for taking time. There's many ways you can spend an hour in the evening, and appreciate you taking time to be with us tonight. As Jeremiah said, my name is Nicki Pecori-Fioretti. I'm a proud Loyola alum, and I'm presently the Director of Community Affairs at IDA, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But I wanted to start tonight and just take a minute to say, I really want tonight to be motivating and inspiring, informative, and I want us to have some fun too. These are very trying times that we're in right now, and we need to face that, and I want to take a moment on that to acknowledge where we are right now in these very difficult times, civically and public health wise, and it's we have to own that. But I want to say, you know, everyone on this call, you're all smart. You chose Loyola to go to school. You got a great education at Loyola and graduated. And tonight's topic is housing. And I think a lot of people just don't know where to begin. You were smart to get your education, achieve academically. In the world right now, more than ever, in Illinois right now, more than ever, needs your good minds, your compassionate hearts, your work ethic, all those tools that you bring to bear, the world really needs right now. But I want to start with a quote from St. Ignatius Loyola himself. This is a quote from St. Ignatius, who said, "The man who sets about making others better is wasting his time unless he begins with himself." So I think tonight, as we talk about financial literacy and making sure you're in a good place economically, and how home ownership can be that path to help not only building wealth, but building intergenerational wealth, is so important. Excited for Daria and I tonight to have the opportunity to share with you some thoughts in that regard, to invest in yourself so you can help invest in others. Next slide, please. So who is Ida? These slides will be available afterwards, so I don't want to read from the slides, but I want to let you know that we're in the business of helping people and helping people with housing. People who are starting out, first-time home buyers, like a recent college grad, people who are on fixed incomes, like senior citizens, or people who are in lower wage earning jobs who provide very important services to our communities. It could be the ambulance driver or the woman who manages the FedEx Kinkos or the person who works in the healthcare facility that a loved grandparent is in. All important jobs and all important to help stabilize our communities. So IDA's role is really to help households be fiscally stable and help communities be fiscally stable. And we do that one house at a time. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about what I do at IDA and home ownership opportunities we have available. Next slide, please. So we have a lot of information available at your fingertips at your own time. Feel free to go to ihda.org. You'll find a volume of resources available to rent an apartment, buy a house, establish credit, get counseling. At your leisure, feel free to go to our website and take a tour around. It's pretty user friendly and there's some great information there. Next slide, please. So one of the things I mentioned, I'm the Director of Community Affairs at IDA. So I actually don't work directly in our home ownership area, but I talked to the few folks, colleagues of mine who do work in that area, and I'll be talking about that for you in a minute. But this is one of the initiatives that I work on in my job, and I used my Loyola degree to help me in this regard. We created what we call a land bank capacity program that has a technical assistance network. And we created this program to assist communities in a holistic way throughout the state. We provide funding to local governments to help with local regional revitalization efforts by dealing with housing directly. So if you look at these two pictures, this is actually a before and after of the same shot. And I actually took the after picture myself. Look at that first house, right? It was vacant and abandoned for some time, probably a result of the foreclosure crisis in '08, and it just sat there. The owner long gone, taxes unpaid, deteriorating, probably was receiving calls from fire department and or the police department, and the city had to get that house, remove it, because there were good houses on that block. If you look to the house on the houses on the right, those are the houses next to it. You see next to the yellow house a vacant lot. That vacant and abandoned home on the left used to be there. We provided capital to the local government. They were able to demolish that house. And what happened then? People then took pride in ownership. There are these lovely bungalow homes, great first-time starter homes. People invested their own money to fix their roof, paint their house. These homes are actually in Springfield, Illinois, walking distance to probably the most famous homeowner that ever lived in Illinois, Abraham Lincoln himself. His home is just blocks away, now run by the National Park Service and a lot of jobs in the tourist industry and so forth. So now we have this great workforce housing and home ownership opportunities right there by dealing with the bad house on the left. And I always say when I talk to communities around the state that these are housing programs, but they're really economic development tools. And if you see this statistic here to your right, for every dollar spent towards demolition, the value of the homes in the targeted area increased over $4. That's very powerful. You're a homeowner, you want the value of your home to go up. As we talked about building wealth. So this is one of my prides and joy of what we're working on. So this is kind of what I focus my day-to-day on. Next slide, please. As Director of Community Affairs, I oversee a portfolio of about a dozen programs. The Land Bank is one of them. Another program in our portfolio provides financial literacy counseling and pre-purchase counseling free of charge to residents throughout the state. On our website that I mentioned, ida.org, we have a zip code locator. So I just entered in the zip code of the Loyola Water Tower campus, 60611, at a 5-mile radius. There's actually 5, but 4 are showing in the screenshot here, of HUD certified housing counseling agencies that we support financially that provide free counseling services to any Illinois resident. So I highly encourage you, go to our website, choose a counseling agency near your place of business or your place of residence now. and call them up and say, hey, I heard about counseling services we have available. And if you think home ownership is maybe a few years away from you, or you think maybe, can I even do it? Say you'd like some financial literacy counseling. They'll look at your budget. They'll take into account you have student loan debt, what your other expenses are. If you're really interested in buying a house now, say, you know what, I think I might be ready for pre-purchase counseling. And they'll help you get your ducks in a row to see what you could qualify for, or help put you on a path to say, you know what, is this an expense you can cut? Can you save a little bit here? Can we put some kind of tweaks to your monthly expenses, and help put you on the right path so Daria can then get you fixed with a nice home. Next slide, please. So this is our mortgage website. So I encourage you to go to this site, idamortgage.org. So if you're ready to buy for qualified residents, we offer up to $10,000 in down payment assistance. That could be a real game changer to folks. So there's a couple of things I'm going to mention and that Daria is going to talk more about. One is your credit score. So typically it's if you've heard FICO score, this is why you might need the housing counseling. A FICO score of 640 or greater is usually required to buy a home. And that just looks at your credit and your credit worthiness. The other important thing to consider is your DTI, your debt to income ratio. And that's something a bank or a lender will look at to see your monthly, what's the percentage of your income to your monthly expenses to measure your credit worthiness. All this information and more is available here on our mortgage website. So I highly encourage you to visit this website, click the home buyer tab in the center there, and we have a really good FAQ that will walk through counseling. It'll walk through our list of lenders we have available, what the income and purchase price limits are. In Cook County, I believe the income limit is about $109,000 per year. And the purchase price limit for your first home is $326,000, I believe. And those vary county to county, and those are all available on our website. Next slide, please. As we get to the next slide, so I know this is a lot to take in, but this is on the IDA website. So we have all types of mortgage products available. One of the housing counselors can certainly talk through that with you. So we have many products available. They're forgivable loans or deferred payment loans or repayable loans, all endeavoring to help you kind of get over that hump of the down payment. I think a lot of folks feel like, okay, I'm paying rent X dollars a month. A mortgage payment is X plus Y, maybe a little bit more per month, or sometimes it could be similar. But the hurdle for me is that down payment. I'm having a hard time coming up with enough for the down payment. And that's where IDA can offer assistance. Going through credit counseling and seeing if you're a good credit risk. I'd like to think most Loyola alums are a good credit risk. They're smart, they're savvy, they know to pay themselves first and save a little money. But at this point in your career, just the down payment assistance may be an issue. And I'm hopeful we're here and can help a number of you. Many of you took finance classes, I'm sure, being in the business school. So as we know, interest rates are historically low right now. I think the rates on our loan products are anywhere from 2 7/8 to 3.5%. That's for 30-year, to borrow for 30 years. So that is another reason to consider buying right now with interest rates as low as they are. Next slide, please. So I just want to circle up by ending my conversation with the beauty of working at IDA is our ability to talk to our peers nationally. And we belong to a member organization called NCSHA, the National Council of State Housing Authorities. The land bank program that I mentioned to you and the revitalization efforts that we work on actually were awarded with a national award at the National NCSHA conference last year for our fight to remove blight. So that was very exciting to be standing there with my colleagues and receive an award that was juried by our peers coast to coast. And as I mentioned to Daria as we're presenting this, the keynote speaker at the luncheon was Mark Calabria, who's the head of FHFA, the Federal Housing Finance Authority. That's who oversees Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who originate most of the mortgage loans in our country. So to be able to hear from his lips to our ears, his take on what's going on in our industry was really incredible. So I ask you to consider a career at IDA. You can go to our website. We always have whatever job listings we have available posted there. It's a rewarding work and mission-oriented that is completely driven by our Loyola values. And I'm now ready to turn it over to my colleague, Daria.
Thank you, Nicki. That was fantastic. All the things you said were super, super important, and I'll definitely touch on them as well too within my presentation. But first and foremost, hi everybody. My name is Daria Dlouchy, and I'm a buyer specialist on the My Chicago Resource team. We are located within the Keller Williams Chicago Lincoln Park office. So we're our own team within a bigger brokerage. Together, we're part of the top 1% Chicago Association of Realtors. That's my team, My Chicago Resource, and we've been a part of that since 2016. So we're very proud of that as well. Go ahead and click the next slide, Jeremiah. So one of the biggest questions I get from a lot of my friends, sorority sisters, colleagues, people I just see all the time since I'm a recent graduate is, when should I buy, right? So there are situations where it is better to rent, and my team and I do in my opinion, fantastic job of educating you on the benefits of both in a way longer presentation, right? So we're just gonna barely touch the surface, and if you guys have any questions, please do not hesitate to call me afterwards or email me. We can set up some time to chat. A lot of the things I'm gonna talk about today too, we have data and statistics behind as well. So for example, it could be better in your situation to rent if you have really cheap rent, right? Let's say you've been living in the same place for, I don't know, 5-10 years. Your landlord hasn't raised the rent at all. It's beneath the average in the marketplace that you're in currently. Then maybe it is better, right? If you're planning on potentially moving, if you're thinking about, hey, I maybe want to go to Milwaukee, maybe I want to change careers, maybe I want to just in general do something different with your life. If you're going to have a drastic change in income, it's probably not a great idea to invest in a giant mortgage. However, that's something that we can talk about together and figure out if it's right for you or not. One of the biggest things that Nicki mentioned that I see too is no down payment. So you're already paying a lot for rent, you're already paying somebody else's mortgage, but you don't have that down payment to make the first step. So in that case, you can contact IDA for that, or potentially just save, right? There are a lot of ways that we can go around that if it's something that you're interested in. So we just need to talk about them and figure out what's the best fit for you. Maybe it is renting one more year. And then home needs do not meet expectations or budget. So if we look into the marketplace that you want to purchase in and we look at what you've been pre-approved for and they just don't match up, you're like, Daria, I would never live there. That is terrible. I hate it. Then maybe you need to save up a little bit more and wait a couple of years until we can be in a higher mortgage threshold, right? But on the other hand, and this is kind of where the data and statistics come in that we can talk about later if you're interested to learn more, housing right now is at affordable levels. Just like Nicki mentioned, it is so easy for you to find a place where your mortgage payment is going to be very similar to your rent payment. And right now, proper financing is available to many, many people. All you really need to do is chat with the lender and see which one works best for you, or go on the IDA website and kind of look into that and see which one could be a better fit for you too. It is better to buy if you're looking to stay in the same place for at least 4 years. So numbers wise, at first, you're paying quite a bit. You're paying down payment, closing costs, there's some lender fees. But if you're going to stay in the home for over 4 years, it still makes sense in the long run to purchase because you're going to be building equity throughout all of that time. And I'm going to talk about that in a second too, a little bit more. A lot of people are able to benefit from tax advantages of homeownership. So I'm not an accountant, that's not my degree, but you're able to talk to yours and see if that's something that you are able to benefit from as well. And your needs are met in the marketplace. So if we look on, all the data that I have and the listings that are live right now, and you're like, yeah, Daria, I love it, I would totally live there, and it's within budget, then your needs are met, right? Go ahead, Jeremiah, to the next slide. So there are a couple advantages of homeownership that I'm going to talk about. The first one being the priceless benefits. So I don't know about you guys, but I know that apartment hunting is so stressful. Dealing with other people, trying to find a place, trying to get your application in before somebody else. And if you want to avoid that, that's a big benefit of homeownership. This place is yours. You're able to do whatever you want, like put wood on the wall like I did. You're able to paint your bathroom yellow. Whatever you want to do, you're able to do that because it's yours. You don't have a landlord that's telling you you can't put a nail in the wall, you can't do this, you can't do that. You have that emotional freedom to really feel like the space is yours and grow into it. Finally buy that nice piece of furniture that you've been waiting for, right? It's a feeling of accomplishment. I know that many of my friends, colleagues, sorority sisters that have purchased a home are incredibly proud of what they've accomplished. It's something that they work towards. So it's something that we can help you achieve. In general, avoiding landlord stress. And like I said, just it's yours. You don't have somebody that's going to kick you out in 30 days when your lease is up. Go ahead to the next slide. So on the other hand, those are priceless. These are financial, right? So as Nicki mentioned, there is appreciation potential. Can't sell it to you, can't tell you it's 100%, but there's a potential. It would be nice, right? There are tax deductions of mortgage interest and property taxes, like I mentioned earlier, that many people are able to utilize to benefit them moving forward in their finances. There's principal accumulation, which is kind of like a built-in savings account. So when you're paying that mortgage payment, some goes to interest, some goes to principal, right? So that principal is equity that you're building in your home. So even though monthly out of pocket, you're paying approximately the same amount, that principal that you're building, you are gonna gather it and build that equity. And then when you go to sell the place, you get most of that hopefully back, depending on the market. There's capital gains exclusions when purchasing a home. And in general, you stop paying somebody else's mortgage. You're already paying rent. Why not put it towards your pocket, right? Go ahead, Jeremiah. So steps to homeownership, what to do? How do I even go about purchasing a home? I have no idea. First step is save. Financial literacy, like Nicki mentioned, is so important. You want to make sure to save as much as you can for the down payment, and also look into your credit. A lot of people have things pop up when I, have them go through a lender for pre-approval that they had no idea. Maybe you signed up for that college credit card, your freshman year, you forgot about it, you threw it out somewhere, and there was $5 on it from Starbucks. And that's been sitting there for 5 years unpaid. So make sure to save, check your credit score, and make sure that anything on your credit score that you can get rid of and pay off, that you do. And there are no late payments, anything like that. We really want your FICO score to be as high as possible so that you can get the best interest rate as possible. The first step after that is to connect with me. So 6 months prior to your lease end, or earlier if you want to, is kind of that perfect sweet spot where you don't feel rushed to find a home. You have enough time to get a pre-approval. If you need to save a little bit more, you have some time to do that. The reason that I say or earlier is that people are scared to pay both mortgage and rent, which is totally valid. And we are able to help you sublease that place if you need to. So we can talk through your options on that. If you're like, Daria, I'm ready to go right now, but I have a lease for the next 10 months, we can chat through that and figure out what the best situation is for you. The next step I'm gonna tell you to do is to connect with a lender to receive a pre-approval. So we need to make sure that your ducks are in a row and that you have been, maintaining your credit well, and that you do have an income to support a mortgage, and they are able to give you that pre-approval and tell you what your threshold is. The reason that we connect with a lender first is because I know everybody looks on Zillow and we all play on the mortgage calculator. That mortgage calculator, you really don't know what you're going to be pre-approved for, because you're not pre-approved for a set number. Like let's say 350. That's not what you're pre-approved for. You're pre-approved for a bundled monthly payment of both interest, principal, taxes, insurance. So the way that, a lender kind of shows you is they really break it down easily so that you can see what you're pre-approved for, where your budget's at. Because a lot of people don't even know what an HOA is, a homeowners association, right? And that's a monthly payment if you live in a condo building for the common areas. Which we can obviously talk in more detail afterwards. I do have a step-by-step kind of process after you do those first two things that I can email you guys. It's too much to go over now since this is Housing 101, but if you're interested in seeing it, please just email me and I'm more than happy to share it with you. Go ahead and click the next slide. And now, benefits of working with an agent. So first and foremost, buyer's agent compensation here in Chicagoland area is usually paid through the seller most of the time. So most of the time, depending on the situation, we can chat through it. You're not really paying out of pocket for all the resource and benefits that are coming to you and helping you purchase the right investment for your home. So like I mentioned, I'm part of the team. You can see my team right there. They're all fantastic. I love them all, and they all do a really great job at their specific role within the team, right? So I mentioned I'm a buyer specialist. My entire team has their own role that they play to help you make the best decision when it comes to purchasing or investing or selling real estate. And honestly, not all agents are created equal. So that's why, my team and our goal is that we educate you throughout the entire process. We want to make sure that from A to Z, you know everything and you're ready to go and you feel comfortable making every decision that you make. Another big thing is confidentiality. So I know I work with a lot of my friends, my sorority sisters from Loyola, my colleagues, other graduates. I'm not going to be telling people, what you're doing. That's your business. And it's all confidential within the team as well. You can count on us to be accountable and loyal to you to make sure that you're making the best decision for you and only you. And that's all that we work towards. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we're going to go ahead into our Q&A session, but I just wanted to quickly touch that my contact info is right here. You are able to screenshot this right now. You can text me, that's my cell phone, call me, whatever you want, email me. If you have any further questions, especially for the 22-step home buyer kind of checklist. And then Nicki has some very important links for you guys to look at as well. So please be sure to screenshot this page and look through them afterwards too. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Daria and Nicki. And I just want to remind everyone, this presentation will be available along with the slide deck. That will all go out tomorrow afternoon. So the links will all be in there. So I wanted to start with asking a couple of questions that we had submitted so far. And one right off the bat is it possible to buy a home with high student loan debt?
Yes,
well,
depending on your situation. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it all depends on your situation, which is why it's best to chat with a lender or learn from IDA's pre-financial counseling sessions to learn what your situation is so we can figure out what your best route is, because not every single route is the same.
Now that's an excellent question, and it kind of steers right back into the DTI, right? Debt to income. So your debt is your student loan debt as part of your debt, but that's one variable out of many variables in the equation. So what's your income? What other debt do you have? What earnings do you have? So I think really kind of sitting down and getting some financial literacy or pre-purchase counseling to look at student loan debt in and of itself isn't a make or break to home ownership. It needs to be viewed in the entire context of your financial position.
Excellent. Another one that we just got is, very topical. Has the coronavirus or COVID-19 changed the housing market? And if so, is this a better time to be buying a home or selling a home?
It has definitely affected the housing market. I do think we're slowly starting to bounce back. I think the biggest impact was at the very beginning when we were all quarantined because, obviously nobody was letting strangers into their homes and vice versa. People didn't want to go into strangers' homes. But to answer the second part too, is it a better or worse time to buy or sell? There's never a better or worse time. It's all dependent on your situation. What I want to kind of come back at that is if you are looking to purchase your first home, think about what you're paying for rent for the next year and think about that in terms of putting it towards your mortgage payment instead of somebody else's rent, right?
Absolutely. And Nicki, I wanted to touch back on something that you had talked about, particularly the high student loan debt and the DTI, the debt to income. is that when looking to purchase a home, is that calculated based on individual or household income if you're married?
I think for it, well, it depends if there's going to be one borrower or co-borrowers. I think if both folks are on the loan, both incomes and both, all income and all debt will be taken into account in that classification.
Excellent. Thank you. So we've had a couple of questions come in about the down payments. This first one, typically that down payment, a lot of people assume it has to be that 20% number. Do you have to both of you, do you have a strong opinion about putting that down payment, that 20% down payment as a first-time homeowner, or what do you suggest as looking at as a first-time homeowner?
So my initial reaction is I don't have strong opinions. I think, it sounds so vague, but everybody's situation is different. I do know that my most recent clients only put down 5% of the purchase price. If you are able to have a mortgage that's less than renting and or equal to renting while building equity and benefiting from the tax advantages of homeownership, to me, it doesn't make sense to wait, an entire year, but everybody's situation is different. So if you're like very, strongly opinion on the 20%, that's fine. But if you're going to ask, me personally, I would more lean towards a lower down payment as long as you're building equity, because you can always put more towards principal and build up that equity when you have the funds to do so.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I loved Daria's bullet point, save, save, save. So having the, I think optionality is always a good thing. What do I mean by that in this context? What I mean is, and I appreciate the person asking about 20%, because that's kind of been the safe harbor rule of homeownership, 20% down. But think of it this way. If you're able to, if your credit score and DTI help get you into a first-time home buyer program and you can do it at 5% down, think about it this way. That's what you're contracting to do. And then you're contracting to your mortgage payment of your principal and interest, taxes, insurance, and homeowners association dues, if that's applicable, if you're in a condo or a townhome. So that's what you're minimally required to put down. That doesn't mean you can't put more down, and you can put it down on the side, right? So pay your mortgage and then pay yourself. So let that up to 20% build up in an account on the side as your mortgage is amortizing. I've never been a big fan, especially in a low interest rate environment and with a mortgage interest deduction that Daria mentioned. With money so cheap, there's no reason to pay your mortgage off sooner than you have to. That's cheap money. If you had an extra, you got a bonus from your job, or you were able to, stow away $1,000 or a few $1,000s over the course of the year. With interest rates so low, would I pay my principal down on my mortgage first, or would I invest in something else? And I know there's going to be another Loyola session later in the series to talk about investing, but I would pay, the minimum you're required to pay on your mortgage, because money is so cheap right now, and use that money, invest it somewhere else at a higher interest rate as you're trying to build your personal wealth.
Excellent. And then kind of further in the discussion on down payments, particularly down payment assistance. Nicki, you talked about 10,000 available. Is that available for each person, or is it per couple? Additionally, are you able to get down payment assistance from different opportunities? Say, for example, if your school or employer offers down payment assistance, are you able to kind of couple that with IDA opportunities as well?
Those are both great questions. It's 10,000 per household. And I would visit the IDA Mortgage website, but I'm pretty sure that if you have other private sources to bring to the table, that would be completely okay.
Excellent. And so this one is a little bit more general. What percent of your income would you recommend spending on mortgage or rent? Is there a maximum percent of your income that you would recommend?
It's in the 30 percentile range, would you say, Daria?
Yeah, and technically your debt to income is 45 for most conventional loans, so 45%. But that includes like student loans or credit card debt or car loans or even buying your iPhone on a loan program. So we obviously don't want you to max out your entire spending budget on a home, because you are going to want to, furnish it, and utilities come up and all these things come up. But I think 30% is a very, very kind of comfortable place, which most likely you're already paying for rent, unless you're in a cheaper apartment, right?
Absolutely. And so for the both of you, when looking at people that are ready to buy their home, but they've got to work on their credit score, what are ways that they can improve that credit score? What are some of the easiest ones, and then kind of the longer term ways that they can improve their credit score?
So my initial thought to that is to contact a lender so they can explain to you what is the best fit for your situation. So I think I saw another question too that asked about the difference between a lender and an agent. So I can touch on that too right now, if that's okay. An agent is somebody like me who actually helps you through the entire home buying process, helps you find the home, helps you negotiate, go under contract, and purchase the home. But a lender is your mortgage, who provides money for you to purchase that home. So if you can't, because of your situation, receive a pre-approval and a mortgage, then you can't buy a home, right? Which is why it's really important to get your financial situation as best as possible before purchasing a home.
Yeah, to Daria's point, I would even say I would seek out a HUD certified housing counselor in advance too, and let them walk you through the financial literacy counseling to see if there's anything, on your credit record or something that you might not be thinking about, just to see how close you are between today and starting to actually look at properties and making a decision on a home.
Excellent. And so let's transition a little bit into that looking for a home or an apartment. One of the questions is, are there places that you would recommend? Daria, I know that you specialize in finding those for people, but are there places, apps or websites or things like that you would recommend as well?
Yes. So the IDA website is a fantastic resource for the pre-stuff, but when you're actually looking for a home, I listed my team's website, which is my Chicago resource. We have a blog there that talks about a lot of the questions that came up earlier. I know that Jeremiah, you emailed us kind of a list of topics that have already been asked about. A lot of those already have a blog post. So mychicagoresource.com, you can go in there, you can actually search for homes. You can put in all your criteria. You can see our specific listings. And we do assist with rentals as well. So just because you're like, Daria, I need to rent for a year, doesn't mean you can't reach out to me. Please reach out to me and I can help you do that too. So mychicagoresource.com is probably, my biggest recommendation other than the IDA websites.
Excellent. And then Nicki, did you have anything or?
No, we actually don't have listings on our website, but all the information about mortgage products and the financial literacy and pre-purchase counseling, all those services we do have access to.
Excellent. And you both have kind of touched on it. When buying a home, you're not just paying the down payment and the mortgage. There are other things. Daria, you talked about furnishing the home and things like that. What are some strategies that you can employ to estimate some of those costs, whether they're utilities or furnishing a home, HOA fees? How do you find that information out?
So if you're working with me, the HOA fees will be very clear, and you'll be able to use the calculator on the MLS, which is the database that all brokers use, to actually calculate an estimated payment, including taxes, insurance, and HOAs. And in terms of like utilities, some places do actually provide you a disclosure on their past utility costs, but it varies so much on usage. I can't necessarily be like, oh, expect to pay, $50 a month for electric. Because for me in the summer, I pay $100 because I run my ACs all the time. And in the winter, it's like 22. So ComEd does have options that you are able to kind of pay an average every month of your entire year. Then they split it up every single month, and then it just rolls over if you don't use it that year. So I know that's a really good resource, but most people honestly are paying utilities right now anyways, because landlords are trying to gain as much profit as possible. So you're most likely paying for, your electric, your gas, your internet and stuff like that. So I would use your past usage as the best estimate. And then is there anything else, Nicki, you want to add? Because I know there was another question on HOAs that I kind of want to touch on too.
No, I think you summed it up well, Daria.
Okay, thanks. So there was a question about HOAs, is there an average or a good range to look for? It's very dependent on the building. So depending on your pre-approval and how much you are able to spend a month, we would look within that range to find the best fit building for you. Because if amenities aren't important to you, then we're not going to be paying $800 a month for a pool that you're never going to use. It just doesn't make sense, right? But if they are really important to you and you're like, I need an exercise club, I go every morning, I need it, then we are going to be looking for one that has a nicer exercise club that you can actually live in. There isn't like an average or a good range. I think in general, the most I've seen recently is 3 at minimum to like 600. That's kind of like as best, it's a really big range, as best of an average as I can give you. But we would work with your budget and situation to find the best fit building for you too.
Absolutely. And so we have alumni joining us from all over the country this evening. And we have a couple of questions, one specifically for you, Nicki. Are there organizations like IDA in different states?
Yeah, great question. I think I was my humble brag slide on our national award was NCSHA. So you can actually go to their website. So NCSHA stands for National Council of State Housing Authorities. And it's IDA, Illinois Housing Development Authority here in Illinois. But there's a state housing finance agency in every state. So if you go to their website, I believe it's ncsha.org, but if you Google National Council of State Housing Authorities, it'll pop up and there'll be a link to all of our sister agencies around the country. So we'd love to keep you or bring you to Illinois, but if not, you'll find some good resources there.
Excellent. Well, and then for the both of you, this kind of goes back to the strategies question. What are some strategies that you would recommend for someone moving out of Illinois or out of the Chicago area, say to a state that they're not familiar with? What are some of the best things they can do to start that home buying or renting process, especially in a time like this where you may have to do it in a completely online model?
So my entire brokerage, Keller Williams, the one I mentioned earlier, we are an international brokerage. So we're one of the largest in the world. And we have agents in every single state that specialize in every single area. So what I would say is your first step is to reach out to me, tell me a little bit about what you're looking for and what you want from an agent, right? Do you want somebody that's going to be hand-holding you throughout the entire process, or are you a little bit more like, let me do my own research and I'll just need you a little bit? So you tell me exactly what you're looking for in an agent, what area you're looking for, and I'll connect you with a specialist within that area that I know is going to have the same values that I do. So emphasis on education, right?
Right. And our lender network, the down payment assistance is available through our lender network statewide. So I'm going to wave the flag for the state of Illinois and ask you to reconsider and stay here in this market. We want Loyola alums, hardworking, smart, compassionate people not leaving our state, but to understand life happens. But the mortgage products I talked about are available throughout the state.
Excellent. So we've got time for a few more questions. One of them, or a few of them that have come in, have actually been about building a house. Does that change the process at all? And if so, can either of you kind of talk to how that would change the process or what you would have to do if you wanted to build a house from the ground up?
I mean, that's a whole different ball game, and I think that's too little of time to talk about now. It's a great way to really build equity in your home because you're able to kind of choose and pick what you want to build with and customize it, which is fantastic. And I am helping a couple clients right now do that. But it's a whole different ball game. So we would need to chat offline because there are, you do need to buy the lot. You need to potentially tear it down, or are you rehabbing? What that means in terms of taxes, like how does it affect it if I tear down the entire home or if I rebuild or rehab the unit? So I think that is a longer conversation. I'm more than happy to do that if anybody wants to reach out to me afterwards.
For sure. And then we also had a couple of questions come in about the timing. So if you're approved for a loan, approved for a mortgage loan, how long does that have? How long is that valid? And if you have some changes in employment, say particularly in a volatile time like this, if you're furloughed or get laid off, how does that impact the home buying process?
So I mean, Nicki can touch on this too, but when looking at your actual pre-approval, that usually lasts around 30 to 60 days, depending on the lender. And if you are laid off during that time, you would have to speak with them because your income would change. So unless you have another job lined up, that's okay. We would have to update the pre-approval and all that good stuff. But in terms of job loss, that would be a conversation to be had with the lender. I do know that if we are in the process of purchasing a home and you lose your job, we are able to back out of that in case, that wouldn't be the right option for you at that point.
And I think it's going to be dependent on each individual circumstance and the timing around it. So I think, trying to speak in generalities can get a little dangerous, but I can say, for example, right now, because of the coronavirus and the impact, not only on public health, but on employment, there have been a number of organizations willing to do mortgage forbearances. What does that mean? So forbear your payment due on your mortgage for, say, 6 months. So the notion would be you get a breather for 6 months and it'll get tacked on to the back end of your mortgage. So you can stay stably housed at this time. So depending on the circumstance, there could be options like that at your disposal as well.
Excellent. So we're just about at the time to wrap up, but I wanted to hand it over to the both of you. We'll start with you, Nicki. If you have any closing thoughts or kind of final notes for the people that joined us this evening, as they're exploring this process of purchasing a home, that is a big step. What is one note that you'd like to leave them with?
Have the self-confidence. You're smart. You're savvy, you're Loyola alums, you know how to do your homework. So this is, this is another project, but this is a project that's going to help put you on a good path to fiscal stability and financial independence. Mortgage rates are incredibly low right now. The purchase prices are reasonable in many markets. But I would say make sure, we're all smart in different things. I might have my MBA in finance from Loyola, but I don't know anything about bioengineering or chemistry. So, we know what we know and we know what we don't know. So I think, just taking some, financial literacy counseling and pre-purchase counseling to know and really understand your credit score, understand your debt to income ratio, figure out what you might need to tweak to get you on that path, see if you're eligible for that down payment assistance, because your life and your future is your most important project in order to be successful and effective. So I wish you all very good luck, and I'm grateful that you took the time with us tonight.
Excellent. And now, Daria, same to you as someone who navigates the home buying process day in and day out. What is a final note that you would like to leave the audience with?
Final note is, first and foremost, thank you again, everybody, for joining. I'm so grateful that I can see a lot of my friends, sorority sisters and colleagues and graduates from my year as well on this. I think homeownership sounds scary to a lot of people, but it doesn't have to be. And that's why when working with an agent that has a successful team behind them too, like My Chicago Resource, we're here to answer all of your questions and make sure that you're comfortable and understand what you're walking into instead of just selling you a home. That's not what we do. We educate you on the process and make sure that you're ready to go with anything that could potentially pop up. And also, I'm really happy with the questions that we got today. I can't believe how, educated they are already. I feel like all these people are ready to just go out and hit the ground running. But, for any of those questions that we didn't answer, please do not hesitate to call or reach out to me. I am always available. And, Nicki also mentioned the website, so please do check those out. They're really fantastic for you to research on your own if you're not ready yet. But it's never too early to reach out to me. Even if it's a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, it's never too early. Please give me a call for any questions.
Excellent. Well, I would like to say thank you to both of you for being, the speakers on our inaugural Adulting 101 presentation. This was excellent. And, it's great to see Loyola being represented in such fine alumni between the two of you. So thank you so much for being part of that. And I'm sorry, I've got some strange light, so it looks like I'm Rudolph right now. And then I also want to extend a special thank you to everyone that joined us this evening for this presentation. We here at Loyola, really try our best to ensure that your education continues even after you graduate. And so this Adulting 101 series will continue in 2 weeks with our second presentation, Enhancing Your Professional Brand and Stepping Up Your Job Search. So look out for that. Information will be in the follow-up email. As I said, the recorded version of this conversation will be in a follow-up email tomorrow, as well as the slide deck that includes the contact information for both Daria and Nicki, as well as the links that they discussed throughout this presentation. Again, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Have a good night and go Ramblers.
Woo! Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.